Hi everybody. It's been a little while since I spoke to you about how things were going in this sort of new age as is becoming to be known. A lot of people have thought that nothing particularly happened in the December date that everybody spoke about, but as you can see, even if it's with the worldly changes, there's a lot happening. And I just thought I'd remind you of the new symbols, which I've touched briefly on before. The last era, epoch, which most epochs last around 2,000 years, were the sign of the fish, the Pisces. And now, in this age of Aquarius, we have the symbol of a man carrying a water pitcher over the archways of heaven. That's the symbol of such. It's supposed to govern things like electricity, our freedom, your computers, opportunities, decisions, and a lot of things of the mind, as we can see with the youth and the media that's forever sort of improving as they see on matters as such. But it's the new moon tomorrow. This new moon that's coming in, it's quite good. There's other planets aligning with it. I don't want to blind you with science on that level. I leave that for the astrologers to do. But it is a time where if you can stay focused or you have goals to move towards, then what you would have perhaps considered not being able to reach out for, it's going to be just the opposite, provided you have your goals and you're focused. It's also the time, if you are religious, Christian, Bibles, etc., it's the time when the Christ consciousness is more important than the generation we've just been coming through. I'm certainly not belittling, the last 2,000 odd years, but the Christ consciousness is there to come about for us as individuals, as if you do read the Bible, if you want to sort of have a look in Matthew, I think it's chapter 4 verse 11 or something like that. It's a time when the Christ talks about us all being baptized with the Holy Spirit. So it's a time to be looking more towards the cosmic Christ, the esoteric Christ. It's the energy we're talking about, not so much the man. That period of time that has been there with us for so many years is now done its job, and so it's time to be moving sort of outward or away, especially for this new age of youngsters and people sort of coming into being. It's for us that are over the age of 30, 35 that need to be prepared to take that step forward into this new time and to embrace the Christ consciousness from within. Lots of us, look to this new age just perhaps from the 60s, as I've mentioned before, but you go to some of the Eastern religions, and if you do yoga, that sort of thing, you'll find that this new age is also referred to as the age of the Kundalini. And I don't know whether any of you are familiar with the energy, the rush from the base chakra or psychic center that rushes through you and gives you a state of euphoria, as well as much other stuff that we'll not go into. But it's also synonymous with that age. I can't remember what the word for it is in Sanskrit, although somebody did sort of mention that to me at one time. So it's for us to start embracing that consciousness, so that the Christ and oneself is as one, and as one with the Christ, then you worship God the Father omnipotent. So it's like, you may think that I'm sort of just jumping about from one thing to another, but I wasn't quite sure what I would be talking about at this moment, although they were impressing on me to come and have a word with you. And they seem to be bringing this thought sort of to the forefront more so. It's an age for us, for the becoming of who we truly are, for us to be able to inherit the spiritual path that's been promised to us the 2,000 years ago. And it's not going to happen in 5 minutes, and it's who and where the cosmic consciousness of Christ can make itself felt. And of course it will embrace those who believe, light workers from other planets, and some say from the galactic outer space, and you can come up with 100 different names and that, but it still amounts to the fact that we've stepped into a new climate now. We have to put that aside, which has always been like the guidebook of our particular life, our individual life, in order to be reborn in a sense, but not with any of your fundamentalist stuff of sticking to sort of this rule or that rule. In fact, it's very much a time for freedom, which sounds an odd thing when everything's happening as it is in the world. But it's at this point, when we're only just stepping into this new age, that is having to sort of establish, crystallise this time in readiness for all of these things to come about. So it is up to each and every one of us. And the ideal way to go forward with this is to keep your eye on your goal, or whatever motivates you, if you've got an outlet, a hobby, a belief, or whatever. One of the reasons I point this out to you is because I have had a few people coming to me who are over the age of 35, as it were, and they have been waking up in the morning, and instead of being their buoyant selves as such, they're having awful, uncomfortable solar plexus feelings, the fright or flight syndrome, which is familiar, you know, with hypnotherapy and psychology, etc. And they're all okay once they're up and about, but to begin the day, there's almost a sense, a feeling of fear. Although fear in itself, as I've mentioned before, is just false emotions appearing real, but we've all probably had something that's worried us to that degree at some point. And some have been coming to me asking about their own longevity, a feeling of whether they're going to pass over quickly. And these are age groups in the 30s, 40s, 50s and 60s. So, you know, it's pretty much across the, with everybody, all age groups on that sort of a level. But it's this sense of change that is now coming that quickly around us, that will be even more sensed and felt upon as we go from this new moon to the full moon, etc., etc. And it's the changes that are going on around us that we're sensing on an external level, as well as those internal levels that sort of bring about this sense of doom and gloom. And it is uncomfortable. And I'm not saying it's going to go away in 5 minutes, but it is all par for the course in this respect. So it's a case of understanding about the cosmic Christ energy, the Christ consciousness, the esoteric aspect. There are a lot of people that believe that Christ's second coming will be one that's in the physical body as such, and it won't be. his second coming is this very thing that I'm just touching so briefly upon at this moment, and it's via the etheric, the vital body, if you like. I don't know whether any of you realise that once we shed the mortal coil, once we're finished with this physical body and we set loose, so to speak, that our etheric body or energy is just massive. You can be everywhere at the same time. It's quite good and quite something to try to understand more about the vital body, the etheric aspect. And the Christ second coming is in this cosmic Christ consciousness that's bigger than the Earth planet as such, which is why it can penetrate into us and move all through us, and we can work towards that feeling of euphoria, hopefully sooner rather than the way it seems just at this particular moment. It's still quite exciting once you do get a handle on it, because it's the new, and it's a living life force, energy, vital, that is there for each and every one of us. But we do need to stay on our particular path. I've spoken about the middle path before, the path that each individual is on, and keep your eyes on the goal. Don't look over of what's been and what was right or what wasn't, or somebody else's opinion, because opinions as well are only made to be broken. I'm having to walk my talk myself too, so where I would have an opinion or want to discuss something, I'm just having to zip it a little bit, but to try to take on board the newness that is there for us all. But it's like some of the youngsters, it's just already there, they're programmed for that, as I have mentioned before. So I do hope I have made myself a little bit understood. I do thank you for joining me, and my website is SpiritualJourneyman.com if you want to have a little browse or look round, and I'm hoping to be a little bit more knowing of what Spirit are wanting to come through. Now we are moving a little bit through from the first stages into the next stage, which this first stage could take a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and not feel its feet for a generation. But all we can do is our best while we're here and now. So I'll say again, thank you for joining me. Enjoy your lives, do your very best, and that's all that's required of you, and think energy and try to understand about energy, and that will lead you on your own particular pathway for where you are meant to go. So I will see you soon. Bye bye.